Our Bible reading is from Exodus chapter 3, and Fiona and the children are going to read it for us.
Now Moses was tending to a flock of Jethro and his father-in-law, the priest and maiden. And he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in the flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought,
I will go and see this strange sight. Why does the bush not burn up?
When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called him from within the bush.
Moses, Moses.
And Moses said, Here I am.
Do not come any closer.
God said,
Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground.
Then he said,
I am the father of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said,
I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to receive them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt.
But Moses said to God,
Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh to bring my people, to the Israelites, out of Egypt?
And God said,
I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain. This is the word of the Lord.
This is the word of the Lord.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that, guys. That was brilliant. Good morning. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Martin. I'm a member of the church here, and I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about the passage that was so beautifully read by Fiona, Oscar, Max, and Robin. So, God does not call the equipped, he equips the called. Moses, who we've seen so wonderfully portrayed by Clive this morning, was not the finished article. He was not a great speaker. He was not a leader. He was not a man that anyone thought could lead the people of God into freedom. It was Moses' encounter with a burning bush in the desert that changed the whole direction of his life and that of the people of Israel. Now, if anyone's ever been to a desert, you'll know that a desert is very hot. So bushes on fire in the desert are not particularly unusual. Now, what grabbed the attention of Moses was that this bush was on fire, but not burning up. So he investigated. God had got his attention. Now, up until this point, Moses thought of himself as a bit of a failure. He'd killed a man in Egypt, and since then had been wandering in the wilderness. For 40 years, he'd been separated from his people. And for that period, those people had suffered as slaves to the Egyptians. As we heard in the passage, God saw and heard their suffering. God heard their pleas for help. God needed someone to help him to free them. Now, of course, God could have done that on his own. God is God, after all. He is all-powerful. He could have freed them on his own. But then, as now, God chose to do it in partnership with human beings, in partnership with us. Now, I think it's fair to say that Moses wasn't particularly keen on this job. wasn't his first choice of things to do. Moses' confidence and his self-esteem was shot to pieces. He didn't think he was good enough. He didn't think he was worthy enough. He didn't think he was capable. But God knew differently. God saw something in Moses. God saw something he could work with. He promised Moses the one thing above all else that he would need to be successful. He promised that he would be with him. Now, how many of us today, after the year and a half that we've had, don't feel good enough, don't feel worthy enough, feel like failures, feel like we don't know how to go out and live a normal life again? How many of us feel that we don't have the right words, that nobody listens to us? How many of us think that we're too old or too young or the wrong gender or come from the wrong background or the wrong ethnicity? God doesn't see that. God doesn't see those barriers. God doesn't see those brick walls that we put up in front of us. What God does see is your potential, your talents, your abilities. He sees something that he can work with. Now, we can argue and protest all we like. We can put up obstacles, we can put up barriers, and we can do that for as long as we like. But at the end of the day, he is God. And God is never wrong. God is calling you. God is calling us. God is calling me to something. It might not be through a burning bush. Many of us will probably not see a burning bush on the way home. But he is calling us. If we listen, we can hear him. Because when he calls, we need to listen. Because when we do, and when we say to God, okay, yes, I will do what you ask, he can work through us. And just like God worked through Moses and Aaron and led the people to freedom, when God works through us, freedom is the result. Freedom is what happens. Freedom from sin, freedom from failure, freedom from weakness. Because God is all powerful and God can do anything through us if we listen to him when he calls. Remind you of that thing that I said right at the very beginning. God doesn't call the equipped. He doesn't call those people that are the finished article, that have got all the talents and the abilities. He equips those that's called. He will call you and he will give you what you need to be successful and to lead people to freedom for him. Amen.